which still exists. And if it wasn't for Sue Kent, I probably would have stopped.
Okay, tell us more about that.
So Sue Kent, anyone know her? Anyone know her? She's an older, yeah, she's been in the business for quite some time. If you talk to her, she always says she's gonna retire. She never retired. She's probably like 75, who knows?
Like Mary Everly.
Yeah, exactly. And she said she saw something in me, so she took me under her wings, right? And gave me my first property that I ever had, on the market, which was in Mechanicsburg. It was a townhouse, and she helped me through the whole process. It was actually hers, but she gave it to me. It was hers, but she gave it to me just so I can see how the business actually ran. So she, mentored me, and because of that, she showed me how to hit the phones, let everyone know you're on an open house, get yourself in a newspaper at that time. Send out postcards to the neighborhood, had an index full of, contacts for people's birthdays and all that, get that set up. Is because of her, I was learning a system.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and because of her, I was able to, from that one open house, I was able to build my business because she showed me how to build all those people that came to the open house, how to stay in contact with them, call them, nurture them. And when they have business, they want to call you. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and she knows I tell this story all the time. She's like, you give me too much credit. No, honey, you did exactly that.
And that's all it can take sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realize everybody in this room has that opportunity to inspire someone else's future
Mhm.
with something that seems so simple to you. It was what jump started your business.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Yeah.
So you're at Howard Hanna. Sue Kent was your mentor.
Mhm. I felt like something was missing. And I knew if I wanted to grow, although I appreciated the structure, it didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. I hate being put in a box. I hate when I can't be creative. I'm a visionary by nature. And that's why I need other people around me that may be able to pull in the reins. And yet I felt like I had too much, like the reins pulled on me. So we can only advertise a certain way. You couldn't advertise your name. It wasn't about the company. It wasn't about you, it was about the company. And at the time, the conversation was crazy, and I felt like, okay, I'm doing all this for them, right? It wasn't to build my business, to build their business. Right, so the light bulb went off, so I was looking around, and I came across, I don't even know how, I think it was at a settlement. And I believe it was with Patrick, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he and I had a settlement. And he's like, hey, what are you doing at Howard Hanna? That's not gonna work for you, right? And I'm like, what the heck is happening right now? In the middle of a transaction, I'm like, can we talk after? Right? Yeah, exactly. So we ended up having a conversation. Long story short, I bought into the Keller Williams model before I knew there was an actual model, right? They build your business, like build your brand and build your business to as large as you ever want it to be. So I stayed there and we did really good. I did very well. It was some of my best years that I ever had. Because I was able to plug into like the systems. And yet culture matters, right? Am I allowed to keep it real? Okay. Yes, the culture actually matters. So what I actually ended up doing was, I knew, the systems and the models and I used the red book, but I felt so I didn't need to be here because I didn't really appreciate how the culture was at the time, right? At Keller Williams. So I decided to leave with another person and, worked under their brokerage, right? Y'all may know it, Next Home. Yeah, I work with Next Home. Actually, that's where I met you, right?
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he was actually one of my clients and he ended up being an investor.
Yeah. It's like one of my very first investment properties I ever did.
Yeah. So then, we grew really fast there. When I say we, I decided that I was over leveraged and I needed to add more people to what I was doing. Why did I want to bring on more people? Honestly, again, I saw in our industry in Central PA, I was very few people that look like myself in the industry, right? So I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how I can get more people that look like me to work in this business because if you're disciplined enough, you can make this as big as you truly want it to be. You can be as successful as you truly want to be. It's all a matter of how much you want to put the work in, right? So, as a result of that, I literally started on, was it Facebook at the time? Cause I don't wanna, I think it was Facebook before IG came out. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then I was out there, advertising like, hey, basically look at me. If I'm being honest, because I didn't know anything else, but hey, look at me, I'm selling houses, right? It wasn't about the consumer. But
We've all done it.
but it was attracting people, to me. And I was going out there doing lives, before people were doing lives, literally at Next Home in my office, like, okay, I'm gonna give this thing a try. There's probably some still posted out there, which is embarrassing. But as a result of that, I was able to attract other people that looked like myself, that wanted to be a part of the team. So I ended up putting an ad out on in Indeed. And that's how I started growing my team. Now, I grew up quite rapidly, right? And people that came on the team, they were doing very well. But it was to the point where it didn't make sense for the model, because I noticed that everyone was happy because they were getting all this, they were getting paid, like pay, because at the time, I didn't have a core value. I didn't have core values. I didn't have understanding of what the mission was going to be. And it was all about just growing your team as rapidly as you possibly can, right? Just so that you just look good. Again, it was about being, I don't know, ego. Look at me, even though we were doing the transactions, I still felt like, well, dang, I promise you, everybody on the team probably got paid more than I did. Literally. Yeah. And y'all looking at me like, dang, that's the true story. That's a true story. To this day, I'll never forget it. And even some would say, this is the first time I ever got a bonus check. I'm giving bonuses and I'm barely making payments, at home. Luckily, I had my husband, he was the breadwinner of the family. Cause I'm like, one day it's gonna actually make sense. It's gonna actually make sense. He's like, I don't see where it's making sense.
It's like the math is not
It's
mathing.
not mathing. So at Next Home, brought over with 7 people. It was like 7 people we actually brought over.
Yeah,
Back
so
to Keller Williams.
I remember I was tech trainer
Yeah.
when I met your team for the first time, and I felt like, because that was one of my first, like onboarding of a team as tech trainer, and I remember it felt like your team took up the whole training room. Like, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. Again, a lot of ego, played a part into that. I was like, yeah, look at us, we're coming over. Region was, posting pictures about us and, it felt good. It did feel good, right? If I'm being honest with you, but again, we were missing a major ingredient, which was 1, culture, and then 2, mission. What is our purpose? What are we doing? Right? So we did dial in, and then I also felt as though, like, we weren't all in, what's the word? What is the word? Stacking hands?
Yeah, let's say
Yeah,
that. We
yeah.
were stacking hands around the boat.
Yes, that's a better one. Our boat was not rowing the same direction. We had one boat going this way, another boat going that way, one going there, another one sinking. Like, it was just a lot. So the boat that we were on, it wasn't the same one, right? So I had to come to realization, and literally, I felt like I failed. I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this ever again. I'm not. But I realized when I woke up, and then there was animosity. It was like backbiting. It was just a terrible culture, y'all. Why am I telling you this? Because I don't want y'all to do this ever, ever, ever again. And I'm also here to show you that even though it was that bad, if you don't quit, something great can actually happen, right? I think a lot of times we feel as though if we fail, that I'm just gonna quit. No, you have to figure out, why did you fail? I knew I had to show up to be the leader that I needed to be in order to get us where we need to go. Right? So I took a look at myself in the mirror and said, hey, guess what? I had to figure out, okay, what made me successful back then? What was it? What was my purpose? If I didn't have a purpose, I have to figure out a purpose that's going to drive me to wake me up every day and attract people, great talent to me.
And you and I talk about that all the time, that when you have a purpose and it's so clear, you will attract the right people to that vision and mission. And if they don't want that vision and mission, that's okay. They're just not meant for your team. But it's amazing how the right people will show up because you have a common purpose.
Right. Yeah, so to say that 2022 was probably the hardest year of my life, and I'm sure people that were involved in it, their lives as well, right? It's probably an understatement, but I probably wouldn't change it for anything because it did allow us to understand what needed to happen, right? So I dived into the KW system and I took career visioning twice. Yeah, and then I shared with one of our team members, you know, hey, this is what we did. I actually apologized and said, hey, you know what? Didn't show up as the leader that we needed to be. Honestly, can't believe you're still here. But we're gonna work this out together, right? So, we came up with the core values, like what really made us tick, core values. And then also what our mission was gonna be and what our values are gonna be. And then from there, we were able to dial in and everything just started making sense. Yeah, not only did, you know, the sales getting profitable, skimming expenses, like literally, I think we shaved off like, I don't wanna pat ourselves, like $2,000 worth of expenses that we didn't need. And then, was able to dial into the database, right? Cause that's what fed us before, our database. And then, from there, making sure that we had the necessary systems and tools for us to grow. So,
So it sounds like, just for a recap, earlier in the interview, she mentioned, you know, she wanted to be creative and not be in a box.
honey, yes, crazy, right?
So throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing if it sticks. Found maybe you were in the wrong box,
Yeah,
found a box that made sense. Said, all right, I'm gonna just do what the system tells me to do, and that included restructuring splits, so that way it made sense for the business. Creating an organizational chart that allows opportunity for everybody to grow in her team if they so choose. Getting back to basics with lead gen and marketing and just all the things.
and taking ego out of it. Like, we don't allow people to have egos on our team, because it doesn't even make sense, like. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
there's no I in team,
No,
as basic as that sounds, but it's so true. When you start hearing that on a team, like, well, I did this and I did that, instead of we. It's an indicator of a problem.
Right.
Cause you're all in it together. Everybody's piece of the puzzle affects each other.
that's correct. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing when you start growing in the same direction. So now you can actually build the business that you ultimately would like to. And having it and creating an ecosystem where everyone can grow, you know, to the level that they choose to, right? Not knowing that, okay, I'm gonna be stuck in this position as a fire agent or a listing specialist or whatever. No, there's actually opportunities for you to grow as big as you want to within the ecosystem, because that's what Keller Williams is, right? So why not emulate what they're doing and just do it at a high level? So, yeah.
I appreciate that. Do you mind sharing what your vision is? What is your mission?
Oh, good Lord. Honestly, to help as many people that choose to own a home as they want to. No, seriously. So we still focus on the Black and Brown community, right? And yet, we also want to be able to have an impact, positive impact in our community. So we're looking at areas that need to, be improved, right? To offer homeownership in areas that they really can't right now. Like, for example, like the city of Harrisburg, there's a lot of blighted properties there. And there's people that are living in some of those blighted properties, which is sad sometimes, right? So, we're just trying to figure out ways how we can win in the investment game. So that, one, we can grow our investment portfolio, and then two, we can actually help the community in which we serve, right? So, a lot of people talk about affordable housing. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people doing those projects. So we're looking at ways that we can provide affordable luxury to people as well, right? On top of us bringing back the workshops, like bringing back the things that worked, right? That connected with our community. So that's what we're doing right now. Yes, it's huge.
It's a great combination of education, because a lot of a lot of people who are living in those situations don't know how to get out of those situations.
Right.
I remember just myself, when I first got in as an agent, I would work with a lot of people who lived in mobile home parks, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they thought that they had to continue that, and what they didn't understand until I showed them on paper, that your lot rent plus your rent is more than a mortgage payment
Yeah,
on a stick-built home.
right.
But they just needed to be educated. So I think there's so much power in what we can do as agents to become educators. And then how our businesses can feed missions bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we say it all the time, educate and empower. Everyone says that, right? But what are we gonna do to do that, right? Literally is having conversations with them. So, for example, like NAR settlement, they're saying, you know, people weren't having buyer consultations. We cringed when we heard that. Like, we literally cringed when we heard that. Because we're not walking anyone through any door unless we're having a conversation with them. Because showing the home is easy, right? But making sure that we are connected to their motivation and, you know, their timeline is correct and they're able to afford the house that they want. And if they can't afford it, what does that look like for them? What are other options for them to do it? We won't know that if we're just showing them properties, right? Or we're like, yeah, we'll meet you at the house. You can't do that. So it is truly about education. And they look for us for guidance because anyone can do all those other things. We're here to be a fiduciary for our clients.
Love that. Any questions from the room?
How many people do you have on the team right now?
Right now, we're small but mighty. We have two actually in the active sales field. All three of us are licensed. And then we have a virtual cyberbacker. Yes, and we're looking to grow.
So down from 17 members down to 3, but more profitable.
Yeah,
Mark King told me recently, he said that he could do more with 3 high performers than with 10 mediocre. And it's about hiring to your core values and your mission. And when you do that, like, you're gonna get the high capacity people who are driven and hungry. So I think that was part of why I wanted Erica up here, because perception isn't always reality. So we'll see these big teams at other brokerages and they look like they're successful on social media. There's a team of 20 people and just sold posting here and just listed posting there. But then when we have the opportunity to meet with them and dig into their business, what we call as rainmakers are still very much relying on their own production because they're so out of model, like what Erica was, where they were making more money than you. And so it's just a great realization. Just because somebody looks really successful on paper or on social media doesn't mean that they are on paper. So focus on your goals. Yeah, focus on your P&L, profit and loss statement, for those of you who don't use one, which you should be. That's a class for another day. Because that's your success story. That comparison can be such a dangerous place to get into.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think, and it's funny because I was talking to today about this and it was pivotal when pivotal. I can't say the word. It was a great big change for me. Okay. When I had the conversation with when he shared about how he had to take his ego out of it too, because when you tie your ego to something, then that's when you start feeling like, you know, anxiety and depression and all of those things, right? Like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. So having like truly having a purpose and living within that purpose and making sure that's what you focus on, because it's easy in real estate, so easy because we make it about numbers. Like, I wish we could take away like, okay, the top team, this and that. No, it should be more like, okay, how many people that had bad credit are now in a home? Like, how many people do you serve that way? You know what I mean? Like,
I
things
love
that are
that.
like, you know what I mean? Something that's tied to someone, another person's self-worth. Like, yeah, I was the vessel that was able to help another person obtain something they probably never would otherwise, right? So it's not about you, it's about the person that you're serving. And people feel that, And it just makes a whole world of difference.
I love that. What question did I ask you that I should have asked? you?
I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't the feel good, but it was the truth, y'all. So I hope you appreciated it.
Well, and
Yeah.
I would disagree that it wasn't a feel good because the victory is really what matters. And you figured it out and you came out better as a result. So the victory outweighs, to me anyway, in your story, the downtime. There were such powerful lessons.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would agree. I think the energy from you, Eris and Lizette, just in this last year has been incredible. Because I've seen the light bulb and like the level of clarity. And this is our purpose. These are our core values and you own it. And there's so much energy around that. Like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, thanks for the pep talk.
And I enjoy the podcast. I told her the other day, I was like, that's literally like my girl time is watching her. podcast. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching Oprah. It's like high quality, good conversations. Like, kids don't bother me.
Yeah, we tiptoe around things we shouldn't be talking about, but it's fun.
We're talking about vaginas.
Honey, yes.
Eris is like not with my mom. I was saying that word when my mom was present.
Yeah, no, seriously, if I could share anything with y'all, like, leave with you, it's like, the success is actually, for me, has been being clear with your vision. And just being disciplined and just plugging in to, a playbook that you know that works and just work it. And when you feel like it's not working and you want to quit, just keep working. Like, you're 6 feet from gold, like, seriously. So, for sure. All right, I'm done. Thank you for coming.
Maybe what?
Oh, yeah, she was like, hold on.
Do you find it very beneficial that you have a bilingual team member?
It's funny you said that. Listen, may I have permission to be?
Go.
Okay, so when, I met Lisette, she said to me that one thing you have to be careful of, right, when you're dealing with Black and brown people is your intention when you approach them, right? And this is a great educational opportunity. So yeah, there's a lot of Latinos that are in the community right now that are looking to buy a house. And do I find it beneficial? I think she is a value add. I would be lying, right? But when you're looking to hire someone, you can't say, hey, I want to hire you because of their, they're being Latina. So she's very sensitive to that because people were in the industry looking to hire her because she could speak Spanish, right? You want to find someone that is a core value that happens to speak Spanish, right? And keep looking for them, not, hey, I want to fit you in the seat because I need you to speak Spanish for me. That's a huge lesson. I know that's not the question that you asked me, but it was a great opportunity to share that with you. So if you're looking for someone that's of a different population, right? Demographic, if you will. Make sure that they're a culture fit that happens to be who you're looking for in that demographic.
I remember you had a 9-to-5 job with the state.
Yes, I did.
And I remember the day, you were quitting that job.
Right.
Because you believe so much in Erica.
Who you talking? It's preach.
You know, and I knew, because her ambition and her energy was
That's
just,
that word. That's our core value.
was just definitely knowing you as well as I do.
Yeah,
That fit, I saw.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I just happen to speak Spanish.
And just because, yes, exactly, like you said, the personalities were definitely there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely left the 9 to
Do you
5.
mind sharing your core values? Because I love that you
Come on
shared
now.
streamlined. that.
Yeah, so it's 5, it's perspective, integrity, and it's excellence is our core values. Yeah, so, and those are what we're gonna hire and fire to. And just, and I need to add ambition because I'm just like, I was sharing with Lisette the other day that, hey, you know what? When we go through this interview process, because she's handling the interviews, right? Which I love, she's I said, when we go through our interview process, just remember what our core values are. And she's like, yep. And it was funny because I was thinking to myself what P was. Like, I knew the definition, but I couldn't think of the word. She's like, you forgot it, didn't you? I'm like, I know I wish I did. It was perspective. I knew the definition, I could not think of the word, but long story short, like, that's something huge to us. We used to have like 1 million of them. After reading Brene Brown, she was like, hey, y'all, you only need 2, maybe 3 core values, and everything else is gonna fall into place. So we literally went through the exercise on team meeting, and we came up with perspective, integrity, which is huge. Honestly, I didn't want that because I felt like it was cliche, but they fought me on it so bad, right? Everyone should have integrity, so why is it a core value in my mind, right? But it made it, it made it, and excellence, because in everything that we do, we are going to be doing it, performing it in excellence, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, there's a difference. Because you do have to perform with excellence, right?
I love that. And when because we revamped ours at our recent quarterly meeting. And I loved actually the collaboration and like that rumbling with vulnerability of just being open and honest about what we felt should be a core value or what was a core value and shouldn't be why. But what I loved, what we did, we had settled on, I think, four of them. And then Matt just asked, he asked the room, like, okay, so if you have a team member and they had these 4 core values, is there something in that they could be missing that would affect the team being able to really vote together? And for us, it was collaboration, which is why we added it, because they could have integrity, you know, they could be ambitious, but if they weren't collaborative, that would create an issue for the team. So kind of, I loved how he framed that question.
I was gonna say, he is so good at that. He is,
He's
I was
so
gonna
good.
say, he is so good at like drilling it down to a simple question that leads to the result that he has in his mind.
Exactly. But now our team owns them together, which I think was the other cool part, because we all came into the core values. Like other leadership before us had created, and we just owned them. But now we actually got to have a say in what they were. And I think
Yeah.
there's a different vibe around it now, because we're like, yeah, we chose these together. And make it unified, our small thing.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
Thank you.
Now you can feel.
Okay, I can
You may not be able to see this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you for sharing. You're welcome.
And I'll bring your gifts for charity. We'll be glad.
Oh, only four lady gifts. Then I have to pay for. Oh, okay, you're giving away all these.